Are you thinking of putting your home on the market? There's more to it than just calling an agent and putting your home on the multi list. You have to do a few things to prepare your home for sale so you can get it sold quickly and for top dollar. Hi, I'm Rose Sawyer with Century 21 Select Group, and this is my colleague Mike McDonald, also from Century 21 in Select Group. And in this video, we're going to give you a few tips and ideas on what you can do to prepare your home for sale.
The first thing you want to do if you're putting your house up is you want to try on some shoes. And by trying some shoes, we mean you want to try on the shoes of the buyer. So get out of the house, get in the car, take a drive, come back and try and view the property through the lens of a buyer, not the seller. You want to just see things that you would notice. Overgrown vegetation on the driveway, things that need to be cleaned up, even maybe some cleaning that could be done on the house itself. Maybe it needs a good power washing, just things like that would really sort of, make the house a little bit more brighter.
It's all about curb appeal.
Absolutely.
It really does count. And one thing also, when you're walking up to your house, take a good look at your front door. Is it grimy around the doorknob where everybody's been opening and closing it? Would it look better with a fresh coat of paint? And how about those light fixtures on either side of the door? Are they all faded? Do they need a new coat of paint? Are they covered in cobwebs? Are the light fixtures themselves full of dead moths and other assorted insects? Take a look at those little things. Also, make sure you have some pots of colorful flowers on your deck or around your front door. It really does make a difference.
And all these things are really cheap things you can do.
Absolutely.
It's nothing that'll cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, and most of the things we're going to talk about, even if you're just going to put your home on the market within the next week, not next month or next year, they're things that can be done really easily and inexpensively, and it really is the little things that can add up to a lot more dollars in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So how about if you're selling your home in the winter and there's 2 feet of snow on the ground? Same thing. Is your driveway plowed? Because I can tell you, we do sell a lot of vacation homes, and oftentimes these folks think they don't need to plow their driveway. Well, we are still selling homes in the winter when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground and it's 10 degrees outside. And I'm here to tell you, I can't tell you how many times buyers have passed on looking at a house because the driveway wasn't plowed and they did not want to tromp through a foot or more of snow, and they passed on seeing that house. So you absolutely want to keep your driveways plowed, your walkways shoveled. And if you have a big deck, it's a good idea to shovel that deck off too. I've also encountered where there's a storm door and there was so much snow I couldn't get the door opened. So definitely have your deck shoveled off as well. And since they can't really see the beauty of your yard when it's got a foot of snow on it, it'd be nice if you have some summer pictures. Just put a few pictures out on the dining room table or the kitchen counter so they can see what your home looks like in the summer when it's looking its prettiest.
One other thing to keep in mind in the wintertime is if you have a house, if you're selling a house and it has an on-lot septic, is once you get under a contract and you start doing inspections, you need to be able to make sure that septic tank is accessible to an inspection team. And nothing is worse than as soon as that inspection gets scheduled and you know when they're going to come, and the winter kicks in and dumps a couple of feet of snow all over the property. Mm-hmm. You just need to have a plan. You need to make sure that either you or make sure you get that thing shoveled out and at least have it located. There was a time once where there was an inspection that was going to happen in the same situation I just laid out, but the owner did not know where her septic tank access was. So
that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is uncommon is when you have to go out there yourself and start shoveling all over the place.
Trying to find the septic tank.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So at least have it marked.
Yeah, at least a stick. At least some sort of stick with a little orange anything. Just even if it's longitude and latitude, just something that we know where that thing is.
Yeah, exactly.
Another important tip is decluttering of the inside of the house. Now, I know this sounds obvious, but believe me, it is one of the biggest things that we have to deal with when we're talking to an owner and trying to get the most money that they can get is for setting these pictures up, because pictures are first impressions.
Absolutely.
And it's how you get people in there to see. People are flipping through their phone And especially today, just like people on Facebook, Instagram, they're flipping through that fast, and they make their decision if they want to see that house within the first few swipes of their phone.
Exactly. You don't want them to swipe left on you. I think that's a thing, isn't it? Swipe left or right. I'm not sure, but I hear about it. I think swiping left is a bad thing.
I think it is. I think
So we want them to swipe right on your
want
house.
you want them to make a date with the house.
Exactly.
Yes.
And decluttering, don't take offense when your agent comes and gently suggests that you do a little bit of decluttering, because we live our normal lives. If you look on Home and Garden TV, the homes are sparkling clean. That isn't how people live every day. Everybody has some sort of clutter in their house, but the way you live your everyday is not the way you're going to live when your house is on the market. When your house is on the market, it has to look like Home and Garden TV. So this is the time to go through things, sort things out. You might discover things that you haven't used in 10 years. So do you really need it? And don't just take the stuff you don't need and throw them in the closets or the garage, because guess what? The buyers look there too, and they want to see that you have storage space. So if necessary, give things away, donate, sell things, put them in a tote, get a storage place, or you can stack them neatly in totes in your garage or your basement. I know I was just cleaning out my house, and I think I'm the queen of clutter. I called my kids that are in their 40s and asked if they would like copies of the results of the achievement tests they took in 8th grade, because I still had those things. Like, really? Why do I still have those? So you'd be surprised at the amount of clutter you have in your house that you don't even realize that you have.
And that was a really good point too, because like you could really, if you are downsizing and you're leaving the area, which in some cases sellers are, you can really kill two birds with one stone. You have your donate pile, you have your sell pile, your keep pile. You keep at the house pile if that's the situation. You could really speed up the whole process.
Yeah, definitely, and it's almost like a cleansing for your soul when you get rid of some of that junk. I'm not kidding. It felt good for me to clear some of that stuff out.
It's always worse than it really is too.
Yeah.
A lot of times just putting stuff away. Just think of the kitchen counter that has everything. Your whole life's kind of spread out as you go on there.
Yes.
It's really doesn't take that long to just move that stuff to the cabinets and put it away. It's really
Exactly.
not that hard.
And if you use that blender once or twice a year, does it really have to be out on your kitchen counter? Find a place in the cabinet for it. Same thing with your mail. Make sure you have a nice basket to keep your mail and bills and so forth. Don't have them scattered all over the kitchen counter or, like in my case, the dining room table. So the next thing we want to talk about is de-smelling your house. Now, I don't know if de-smelling is a real word, but honestly,
I think it is.
sometimes you have some odors in your house that when you live in the house, you don't even notice it, because that's just how your house smells. So you might want to have a trusted friend who doesn't visit your house often just come in and be honest with you and say, do you smell anything? The number one odor problems that we seem to encounter when we're selling homes is pet odors. We all love our pets, we love our dogs, we love our cats, but the fact of the matter is they can make your house smell, particularly litter boxes. If you have cats, you definitely want to change that litter box often, have it in an out-of-the-way place, and if you're having a showing, change it just before the showing is scheduled, because that really is a turnoff. They will walk in, I've had buyers that walk in and like, oh, they've got dogs, or oh, they've got cats, I can smell it. So you do want to take care of that. Another thing is cooking odors. We all have dishes we like to make, but
Not
you really don't want to make a
No.
thing loaded with garlic just before a showing. If you want to make cookies or cinnamon buns, that's fine, but
Yeah.
not something that's stinky. And now here's a tough one. Teenage sons. And no offense to anyone, but teenage boys can just downright stink. Their socks stink, their shoes stink, their underarms stink. And they generally aren't the neatest. So make sure if you have teenage boys, they throw their dirty socks in the hamper. They don't throw them under the bed. Make sure they make their bed every day. Put their dirty clothes in the laundry hamper. And please, don't just try to spray the room with Axe body spray and think that's going to cover it up, because that's almost just as
No.
bad.
Well, that's another one.
Another one.
Cigarette smoke.
Cigarette smoke. What do you think about cigarette smoke, Mike?
I think cigarette. Listen, people are smoking. I understand, but if you are one of those people that is trying to sell your house and you are a smoker, you know that's one thing. But for the time being, I would say take it outside, just for
Absolutely.
now. You know, we're not gonna tell you what you can and can't do inside your own house, but when you're trying to sell your home, cigarette smoke is a big turnoff.
I think it's the number one turnoff. Oftentimes we go in the house, and the minute we open the door, people are like, "Oh, there's smokers. I can smell smoke. That smells hard to get rid of."
And it also damages, like drop down ceilings will turn yellow, and you
Oh.
can tell.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see the nicotine. And again, this is another case where you're living in the house, so you don't even notice it. But trust me, new eyes looking at your house will notice it. And then, because of the area that we live in, one thing that we encounter very often is a damp, musty smell. So, and particularly because in vacation homes that aren't used often and the house is closed up. So I strongly, strongly advise if you have a basement that you run a dehumidifier and have it set up
Oh,
so
yeah.
that it drains automatically. Not
Yeah.
one of those that only works when you're there because you have to
You have to
manually
change
dump
it.
it. So yeah, have it set up, even if it's just draining into, the washing machine or the bathtub or something down in the basement. You definitely want to run a dehumidifier because that damp, musty smell is a real turnoff to buyers.
And a lot of times that thing takes care of it completely. In a
It
lot
does.
of cases.
It does.
You know, not every case, but a lot of times be amazed what a dehumidifier can do.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely recommend. I live in my house full time, and I still run a dehumidifier
So do I.
in my basement because otherwise we do get that damp, musty smell, and the basement feels damp without it.
And it's crazy to think, like, I mean, obviously you want to hook it up to the hose, but, you know, if you have it hooked up to the box, you're manually changing, it's kind of crazy to think that in 12 hours you can produce a quart of water just by pulling it
We
out.
have one right here in our office, and we have to empty it every single day. And we're not in a basement; we're above ground, but that's just how much moisture is in the air.
Especially in the summertime.
Yeah, so really give that one a good hard thought and consider doing that.
And you know, with the whole deodoring of the home, you can take the best pictures in the world, and nothing's worse than having that. You know, whether you had those pictures taken, you stage everything great, you have the best pictures, but they don't pick the smell up. And you know, you got to think about how our noses work, right? Our noses, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but from my understanding, our noses detect change of smell, not necessarily a smell itself. So that's why you have a lot of people. You might not realize that your house has an odor because you're there all the time. But if you were to leave your house, if you're ever in a situation where you left your house, you came back, and then you're like, oh wow, this does kind of smell. That's because you're picking up that change of smell.
Right.
So that's just something to keep an eye on, I guess.
Yes. And don't make the mistake that some people do by just plugging in a bunch of plug-in air fresheners because that can almost be worse than the smell itself. I've had people actually want to leave the house because the air freshener smell was overpowering and they think you're trying to hide something. So just the best thing to do is eliminate the source of the odor. And then you don't have to worry about plug-in air fresheners or burning candles or putting out bowls of potpourri. Just get rid of the source of the
Yeah,
smell.
you don't have to stick a Band-Aid on it. You want to fix the problem.
Exactly.
And it's not hard to fix. It can be fixed.
Yeah. So another topic you've probably heard about on shows on Home and Garden TV is depersonalization. And a lot of people think that means, well, I have to take down all my family pictures. You don't have to take them all down, but you do, if you're like me, my grandchildren don't live near me, and I practically have a shrine to my grandchildren on my walls with literally dozens of photos of my grandchildren on the wall. Yeah, take those down. You can leave one or two family photos. And people actually sometimes like seeing one or two family photos. They're like, oh, they look like such nice people. And if you have like a picture when you're on a ski trip, they're like, oh, they look like fun people. So one or two family pictures is okay. Just don't have a shrine to your grandchildren like I do.
It could be intimidating to the buyer, walking in there.
Well, you want them to picture their family in the
Exactly.
house, not your family. So, yeah, in that respect of depersonalization, yeah, don't have 20 or 30 pictures of your kids and grandchildren around, but one or two is just fine. The other thing is, Mike, I think you're from a hunting family. Does your dad hunt?
Yeah.
So what do hunters have in their house?
They typically have taxidermied deer heads or whatever game that they hunt.
Yeah. So not everybody is into that. Some people might actually be offended by it, and it's okay to be proud of the, the trophy that you got. They are beautiful. There's a few of them hanging in my house from my husband, deer and big bass that he's caught. But while your home is for sale, you might want to put those in storage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
Just in case.
the people want to make it their home, not your home. And if they're not into the wildlife thing like that, it may be hard for them to
Wrap
picture
their head
it.
around it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and again, don't take offense when realtors suggest things to you. It's our job to get your home sold quickly and for top dollar. And sometimes these are just the things that need to be done. And you want an agent that's going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
It's definitely not personal.
It's not
No.
personal. It's not personal. It's one of the biggest business decisions of your life. So you want to make sure you do it right.
Another thing we like to call the light bulb moment, right? Not just because it sounds good, but because it's literally the light bulb moment. You want to make sure the house or the property is in good lighting. You don't want to have flickering lights. You don't want to have too dim lights. Not only just for the pictures, but when people are physically inside it, you want them to be able to see the house.
Yeah, no burned out bulbs.
No, definitely not. And that's something that's an easy fix right there. You just go down Dollar General even, get a couple light bulbs and plug them right in and fix that problem right there.
Yeah, and if you live in the house, it's a good idea when you have a showing scheduled, if you could turn all the lights on before you leave the home and just ask the agent to shut them off when they go. And I sometimes joke that the hardest part of being a realtor is opening a lockbox and finding the light switches. So if you could have them on for us, that's a real bonus.
And the other thing too, it's that I see a lot is when I'm going showing property, then I have these beautiful windows, but the drapes are shut.
Oh, yeah,
Open those drapes up because nothing's better than natural light.
exactly.
It's a big selling point to the house if we can not just tell them and see that there's a big window there and say that it's full of natural light. We want that natural light to be there before the buyer gets there.
And speaking of windows, make sure they're clean.
Yeah.
Really, especially in this area, we have a lot of chalet style homes with big tall windows and big expanses of window. It's worth the expense, or if you do it yourself, the time and effort to make those windows sparkle and clean.
Yep. And
If
you have a dog too, like
Yeah.
my dog will always, every time he hears anything, he gets up on. You can get up on the ledge and look out the window there.
Yeah.
And his nose.
Yeah.
It is. You don't really think about it, but you
Yeah.
have to get that clean.
Wipe those nose prints off.
Yep.
Okay, next up is fix it or forget it. You have those little chores around the house that you've been putting off, or that faucet's been dripping for so long that you don't even notice it anymore. Well, like Mike said in the beginning, look at your house through the eyes of a buyer. Walk into each room like, ooh, yeah, that faucet's dripping. Fix it before you list your home, because all these little things, they're going to show up on an inspection report. Before you know it, you've got a 50-page inspection report, and it looks like you might as well bulldoze your house. So take care of all those little things. If you've got broken blinds, fix them. Have a cracked window, get it fixed. One thing we come across often is outlet covers are missing. They're less than $1 at Home Depot. Go get them and cover them up.
They will come up on an inspection report.
And they won't come up on an inspection report. And I can tell you, these little things that cost $1, a buyer looks at it and like, oop, taking $100 off for that. So take the time to walk through your house, really look at things, and take care of all those little things that have been going on so long that you no longer even notice them.
This is the time to be very meticulous. You want to go
Absolutely.
through every room with a fine comb and just try and put out any fires before they can start.
Exactly. And I've been in some homes where the ceiling fan doesn't have a separate switch. You have to pull a chain to turn it on. Make sure that chain is long enough to reach to pull the fan on.
And
And speaking of fans, clean them, because when you shut them
yeah.
off, you'd be amazed at how much dust is on those
Yep.
fan blades.
And this is also, we just talked about lights and the pulling the chain. You want to make sure that because some rooms that are on that circuit with a lamp doesn't have an overhead light. You want to make sure those are hooked up, so when they hit that switch, they don't go, oh, nothing.
Yeah.
It turns the light on.
Yes, and if you do have rooms without the overhead light, always have a lamp plugged in that can work, because that's frustrating too, when you have to stumble your way around to the other side of the bed and try to turn a lamp on so that the buyers can see the room. One other thing I wanted to mention, because we do live in an area where there are a lot of vacation homes and people decide to sell their homes and they take all the furniture out and take it back to their primary home or give it to family members. I strongly recommend that you leave your home furnished while it's on the market. A furnished home shows much better than a vacant home. It gives potential buyers an idea of where a couch will fit, where a love seat will fit,
Exactly.
how big a dining table will fit there. When it's a blank canvas and there's no furniture, they sometimes have a hard time imagining that.
It puts context to the square footage.
Exactly. Okay, and last but not least, and you probably aren't going to like this one, but I want you to unthink. Unthink that number you've got in your head. Let's face it. I know you've got a number in your head, what you think your house is worth. And many people come up with that figure because they look at their Zestimate, or they see what they paid for the house, what money they've put into it, what their closing costs are going to be, and how much they want to have in their pocket. And that's how they come up with their list price. I'm sorry, it does not work that way. Mike, you want to tell us the best way to get the proper list price for your home?
But before that, you mentioned Zestimate.
Yes.
And when I hear that a lot. I hear my Zestimate was this, and I always have to tell people, when was the last time Zillow went and looked at your house?
Exactly.
It's an algorithm that's just compiled with average data.
I can tell you, we have 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot homes here that might sell for $200,000. And we also have them that sell for $300,000. Again, you have to see the home. Does it have granite counters? Is it all upgraded with fancy bathrooms and hardwood floors? It makes a difference. So, Mike, on to how you arrive at the proper list price.
Well, how we find what the list price would be is we do what's called a comparative market analysis, also known as a CMA, where we take comps in a recent market. Now, it depends on what market your house is in. How I do my CMA is I typically go back. I try to go back no further than 6 months.
Right.
If there's a lot of houses, so like there's a development up here called the Hideout, where there's a lot of sales going on, I will only go back 3 months, and I can usually find very good comps in that 3-month range. I want to try and keep that as recent as possible.
And comps being homes that are
Yes.
comparable to the home that you are selling. Same approximate square footage, age, condition, etc.
Yep, and it could be a little different here. You could have a house that's maybe, we'll go with 2,000 square feet. You can have a comp in there with 1,800 square feet,
Right.
or 2,200 square feet. You adjust. We find our adjustments, and we just sort of do the math before we present that to you. And not just a recent market, but we like to use the ones that have sold. So a lot of people say, like, well, this house is listed at this price and it's active. That's that's a little bit of a misguiding, because when you're dealing with sold houses versus active houses, you're dealing with facts versus
Hopes.
fantasy.
Yes, fantasy. That's
so
right. Facts versus fantasy.
We can list a house could be listed at I don't want to say anything, but pretty much anything.
Right.
Even if it doesn't make sense, it could be up there for that price. That doesn't mean it'll be sold at that price.
Exactly.
So when you're dealing with closed comps, you're dealing with the facts. The facts of the matter is, and a lot of times when you pull up the data on the MLS, you could see if that house was overpriced, if that house was priced just right. All depends on how long it was on the market, and it depends on how far from that original list price it was to where it got sold. And a lot of times with just that data right there, you could tell if this house was overpriced, underpriced, or priced perfectly.
Right. And if you have your home overpriced, it tends to stay on the market longer. And buyers are savvy these days. They know how long a home has been on the market, and the longer it's been on the market, the more negotiable they think you're going to be. So it's not always to your advantage to price it higher. You oftentimes end up getting less than if you had priced it where it should be to begin with.
Initially.
And you also want to look at what's pending, what's under contract. I know we don't know what the final sale price is, but we do know a similar home that was priced around where yours is under contract and is going to be closing. So we put all those factors together and give you an honest opinion of a range, you know, maybe a $10,000 range of where your home should be priced. And it's really to your advantage to follow your realtor's advice.
Mm-hmm. You know, we don't come up with the CMA lightly. You know, it takes they take a lot of things into consideration, and a lot of times when you're trying to sell your house, and especially if you've been there a long time, you know, if this is maybe your first rodeo selling a house, or if you've been there for 20 years, it's hard not to apply your personal touch to it. Not touch,
right.
but your personal.
You
There's a
have
lot of
memories.
sentimental values that you might apply, and unfortunately, I wish it was the case, but sentimental values to your home just don't equate to dollars when
Right.
you're trying to sell it, and I wish it was the other way.
Right.
You know,
but you know what? You're taking those memories with you.
you are.
So just keep that in mind. I know everyone's home is special to them, and it's always a tough decision, but you have to make, you know, a sound business decision because it is business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add to that, Mike?
Not at this moment. You know, I feel like we touched everything.
Okay.
And
So thanks so much for watching. I hope you found it informative and helpful. And again, I am Rose Sawyer with Century 21 Select Group in Lake Ariel.
I'm Mike McDonald with Century 21 Select Group in Lake Ariel.